Good afternoon. Welcome to Senate Education. It's January 27th. We're going to start just briefly. I don't think we'll need to take much of Ms. Barrett's time. Stephanie Barrett is joining us from the Joint Fiscal Office regarding educational related policy for our career technical education funding. There are dollars in the budget adjustment that came over from the House for our career technical institutions. This is something that this committee has talked about for a while, and I just asked Ms. Barrett to come in and give us an overview so committee members are aware of this and make certain that everybody is okay with these dollars moving forward on the Senate side. So with that, Ms. Barrett, Happy New Year. Great to see you.
Thank you. This is particularly for the budget adjustment bill. Yeah. I did send some documents earlier to Daphne. There are basically three items in the budget adjustment bill that impact on the CTEs. One, the House did not do, but the governor recommended, and then there are two pieces that were included by the House. And then I also on the documents provided a few other pieces of education related items that are in the budget adjustment bill. But you have your higher ed crowd here, so you don't need me to touch on those. But the governor proposed using $1.5 million of education fund monies, so appropriating an additional 1.5 to be distributed across the CTEs. And there's a document. It's got distribution in the name of it that came from AOE on how that would be distributed. The House did not include that in their BAA recommendation. So the House did include a $515,000 appropriation out of the ARPA SFR funds, the state fiscal relief funds. That's the $1 billion pot for the three independent CTEs at specified amounts. And I've also attached a copy of the letter that went from the House Education Committee to the House Appropriations Committee. The House Education Committee had proposed carving that 515 out of the 1.5 ed fund, but the House Appropriations Committee decided not to do any of the ed fund dollars and do the 515 out of the ARPA funds. And I think that's the item that the Senate Appropriations would appreciate most the input as soon as possible from this committee. And then the other piece that's in there that refers to the CTEs is there's a $15 million ARPA expenditure that we did in Act 9 last year related to HVAC, continuing to improve HVAC in schools. And the language that's in the budget adjustment simply adds the CTEs as being an allowed use for that pot of HVAC remediation improvement dollars. Those are monies that flow through Efficiency Vermont or to Efficiency Vermont. And that program, because the ARPA guidance was different than the CRF guidance that we had previously funded this program with, didn't get off to a quick start. It's still, I think, just about to begin. So those are the three items that touched on either the governor or the House budget adjustment. And then there is another issue that came up in committee discussion, and that's the baseline of a grant program through Vermont Department of Labor for equipment for CTEs, which has not had much uptake. And it's not for the budget adjustment so much, but I think that's a question that will circle around. Is there a reason why those dollars weren't accessed very readily by the CTEs? That it would be helpful for Senate Appropriations if this committee could sort of follow up on and understand that. So that's the CTE universe. And then there's a few other, there's some technical amendments related to ESSER 1 and ESSER 3 funds. And then there's some significant monies that are in the higher ed arena that are included in the budget adjustment.
Ms. Barrett, would you just go back and say, so the document specifically that Probst is interested in right now are those dollars that are going to the individual CTE
The
centers.
3 independent
Right.
CTEs, yeah.
Okay.
So that's that they would, the House made that choice to do those 3 specific grants
Mm-hmm.
to these 3 entities. They total $515,000. They're
Right, I'm looking at them now. So
Yeah.
Hannaford Career Center, $185,374.06. Southwest Career Center, $79,233.24. And then River Valley Technical Center, $251,139. And correct me if I'm wrong. So these were dollars that we had hoped to work on last year, but or I think the governor was going to try to move forward on last year, but somehow got lost in the shuffle.
I don't know the history.
Okay.
I know that, these
I don't mean that in any blame way.
Yeah,
I'm just
no. I know that the independent CTEs, just by the nature of them, were not
Yeah.
in the flow of ESSER dollars that a CTE that's attached to a school could, not necessarily did, access. I know that the agency's preference was their $1.5 million spread across all the CTEs, which included the 3. But I don't know that, I don't know the discussion last year on these 3 particular independents. I thought that came up after you were out of session.
Any immediate questions or any questions at this point for Ms. Barrett? Senator Perchlik, please.
Thank you. I don't see the document. I see the 4 documents with Stephanie's name, but I don't see the one that you read those $3 numbers for the 3 CTEs. Were you reading something, Senator Campion?
Go ahead, Ms. Barrett.
I'm sorry. I should have sent that. I made a note of it, but I will get it sent to you. It's in section 69 of the budget adjustment as it came over from the House.
I just sent it to you, Senator Perchlik. I'll send it to everybody. I received it in an email from Chrissy Gilhooey in a Probst. But I just sent it to you, and I'll forwarding it to Daphne right now. And if Daphne, if you would send it to the rest of the committee, that'd be great.
That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Anything else for Ms. Barrett at this point? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Daphne, if you could just acknowledge, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, so moving on, we have asked a number of different individuals to come in today to talk about the governor's recommends in the budget. This is also an opportunity to weigh in and perhaps give us a little overview of any other issues that might be on people's minds, any other things that we might just need to be aware of as it relates to even budget adjustment, but really largely we're talking about the governor's budget address and responding to that. I thought we would jump into this work a little bit earlier this session than we usually do, so that we can be ready to advise appropriations in a timely manner. So with that, President Garamella from the University of Vermont, Happy New Year to you. Great to have you. I believe you know just about everyone here. And I see that Ms. Koenig has joined him. Anybody else from the University of Vermont? Of course, we have Senator Chittenden here every day from the University of Vermont. And I feel like Senator Lyons also in many ways is connected to the university. So with that, the floor is yours. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Senator Campion and Senator Hooker. Really appreciate the committee asking and me to come and to give us the opportunity to talk to you, and a very happy new year to all of you. I'll keep my comments short, be happy to answer questions. And also, I know you have a lot on your agenda, so I'll try to be brief here. I think you usually want to hear a quick update on the university. Well, COVID's on everyone's minds, of course, and we continue to handle it very well. Incredibly, 97 to 98% of our students are testing negative, which is really so much more encouraging than even in the rest of the state and certainly the rest of the country. We're having in-person classes, fully masked. We provide KN95 masks to our students, our employees. We're providing, at-home tests for our employees. So the fact that we can have students back on campus is definitely great for the education they get and the mental health for their growth. So we're very pleased that we're able to do this, even though the Omicron surge was worrisome, and we continue to be very careful. But I'm very pleased with where we are today. COVID has obviously been challenging, but we're doing all we can to keep our community safe and continue to provide the great education that UVM does. Something of very, very dear to my heart, and thankfully we've been able to do this. We've maintained our commitment to access and affordability for our students, including holding tuition for flat for 4 years in a row, something we've never done before, never been able to do before. We've frozen room and board rates. We've cut fees where we can. So I'm very proud of it. I continue to be committed to that. You will see me care about affordability for our students and their families as long as I'm here. I'm very proud also that UVM is putting qualified alums into the workforce, our graduates, areas like nursing, engineering, medicine, agriculture. It's always important. It's been more important now than ever before in those areas. We add over 1,000 students, graduates to the workforce every year, and over half of them come from out of state. So it's a major brain gain. I do have, I know you don't need to go look at it now, but we did provide a one-pager. It's easy enough to follow with some key stats. I'm covering a couple, and of course, I'm happy to answer any questions on that. We are also very thankful to you for the support we got for Upskill Vermont last year. It was a very successful program, and we were able to assist in the training of people to go back to work in a post-COVID landscape. So that was an excellent investment in my opinion. I want to also address a challenge that all of us know all too well, and that's regarding housing. I know it's a vital concern in Burlington, but across the state. And I have written about this publicly now, and UVM is committed to, and we're working to house more students, including our graduate students, on campus to be a part of the solution. So I hope that will proceed smoothly. And maybe the last thing is that we continue to contribute with our research, being the state's public flagship. Our cutting-edge research is allowing us to solve problems of great import to the state, to the nation, and to the world. And certainly we appreciate the ARPA funding we received last year from all of you to move along our research in COVID-19 and other infectious diseases. And we'll continue to do our best to elevate the solutions for the problems facing the state. So I guess in sum, we're doing our part, but we need the legislature's help. So to your question about the governor's budget proposal, we had asked for, and we're very, very pleased indeed that he included a $10 million increase to our base appropriation. Let me reiterate that we've not had an increase in 14 years, which basically with inflation adjustment reduces what we've been getting by about 25%. So the 10 million increase in our appropriation would not only be a shot in the arm to us, show our community that the state also cares about the priorities that we've identified, such as engaging with our community through our Office of Engagement, through our research, through our commitment to affordability and access. And so we're committed to serving our land grant mission to the state. This increase will essentially bring us back to where we were about 14 years ago, and certainly allow us to remain strong, healthy and competitive for the years ahead, so that we don't price ourselves out of the market, essentially, especially in this challenging COVID environment. And in addition to that base increase, I know this is not something you specifically asked about, but I also wanted to say that we had a carryover request for ARPA funds from last year. And specifically, again, very COVID related, we requested $30 million to upgrade some of our heating, ventilating, et cetera, systems campus-wide. We have very old buildings, as you know, a lot of deferred maintenance. And this support through the federal funds will help us maintain a healthy environment for our faculty and staff to work in, and for our students to learn in. And I hope that this allowable and really quite appropriate use of ARPA funding, I know will have a major impact on the quality of our environment here. So I hope that was a reasonable summary for you, Senator Campion. I'm more than happy to take questions on anything I said or on the one-pager we provided or any other matters. So thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you, President Garamella. Any questions? Senator Perchlik and then Senator Hooker.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, President Garamella, for coming in. And just so since you're here, the one complaint that I hear, I'd say it's the only complaint I hear of UVM, but I don't live near the campus, so I don't get if there's any of those kind of complaints, but is the proportion of Vermont students. So in your handout, you have that, and you talked about it. It's a little under a third of the student body. And I understand the benefit of having new people coming in. But that said, and I see that, which was helpful in the handout, that half of the state aid goes to the scholarship for those Vermont students in the data that you provide about how you support them. But just, do you have stats that you could send about how many Vermont students apply that don't get in?
Sure, we could certainly send you any information along those lines that you want. And I'm really pleased that my partner, Wendy Koenig, is on the line. And obviously, you all know her as well as anyone else. And she's a great resource for you. So Senator Perchlik, I want to say that I don't believe there's any qualified Vermonter who does not make it into UVM. It's a very important factor for me. It's an important commitment of ours. The fact is that over time, the numbers cannot stay flat only because there aren't that many high school graduates in Vermont. If you look over a 10-year period, disturbingly and sadly, the numbers are going down. And as you know, Vermont has among the highest sort of participation in high school and among the lowest at the next stage. I certainly believe that making college affordable is an important consideration as a result of that, which is what we're contributing to. And a piece of our I have said that my top priority in fundraising from our donors and our alumni and friends is for student financial aid as well. And a piece of it is called Our Common Ground, the President's Our Common Ground Scholarship, which is meant to address underrepresented and underserved students. And so we're doing all we can to attract students. Joyce will, President Judy, is that what? Yeah, Joyce Judy will confirm that the CCV partnership, certainly VTC and other parts as well, but most strongly with CCV, is very strong. We're just having a conversation this morning about how we can amplify that further. I think we're actually doing a lot more than counselors and others are aware of, and we need to make that more clear. So we will continue to do all we can in partnership with the state college system to show the pathway for our Vermont students to go to college and therefore improve themselves. At the same time, as you noted, the fact that out-of-state students come, I have said quite sort of fervently that these are an amazing resource for us. If we're bringing 600, 700, whatever students into the Vermont workforce every year, there is no other program in the state, no other entity in the state that adds so strongly and such high quality to the workforce. And so I'm very proud of that. And we will do all we can through our internships focus and our Office of Engagement, et cetera, to try and make Vermont more sticky for more of these students so they stay. But the point you raise is very, very important. I hope that more high school students graduating from Vermont schools do go to college, and if they will make it will be as helpful as possible for them to choose UVM.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's an answer I liked. Thank you for those comments. But yeah, if Wendy can send me, if there's any data that you have about those that apply that don't get in, and I think that'd be great if I could share with some folks in the community that don't have that impression that all that are qualified get in, and maybe it's a financial, maybe they get in and then just can't afford it. But if you do have any data on that, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
I will.
If I could
I'll get
add,
back.
sorry, yeah, in terms of the financial bit, I just want to also say that as the one pager shows, almost half the students pay no tuition at all to come to UVM, and 92% or so get financial aid from UVM of Vermonters. And so we do really try our best to make it as feasible for them as possible to attend. I understand there are financial challenges. We certainly cannot erase them all, but we're very committed to that as well, and that's not going to change. Thank you, and we will send you the information. Wendy will take care of that. Thank you.
Senator Hooker.
Thank you, and thank you, President Garamella. I'm curious to know, you mentioned housing, which we know is an issue all over the state at every level. Is your housing filled? Do you have space in the dorms? And what are your restrictions on whether or not kids can get housing off from campus, or do the kids have to stay?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Hooker. So it's a great question, something that's been, actually in my first 6 months when I came here, and it's been about 3 years since I arrived, we started, everything I heard from the students was always, whether it be undergrad or grad, that housing was an issue. No great surprise. And so we started looking at this issue. I was on the point of talking to developers and such to sort of gauge interest in building, and then COVID hit, and nobody wanted to talk about this at all, right? So I wrote a piece recently, maybe Wendy can share that with you. In the Digger, I think it was a short commentary that we're committed to building. One challenge we have on campus is that there are some very stringent restrictions, zoning regulations on our campus that are different from what it is in the rest of the city. So we are working with the city council. I applaud their partnership. They've been very receptive because housing is such a challenge. We hope that we're able to roll back some of the say setback types of zoning regulations that are there on our Trinity campus. We've shared with them plans for building on the order of about 400 undergraduate beds there, about 115, 120 graduate beds, for instance. So each of these things will add significant capacity on campus for not only undergraduates, but also graduate students who like to stay near campus. To your question about is our housing fully subscribed, it is. We have our housing capacity is quite full, and if our incoming class remains strong, that will certainly completely fill it. The requirements at UVM are to house our first and second year students, and this, compared to our peers, is quite unusual. Most public flagships require the first year students to stay on campus. We require both first and second year students to stay on campus. So we're trying our best to be part of the solution. And beyond the 500 plus or so beds I just mentioned, I hope to continue to look at additional options for housing on campus. We'll keep contributing, but one step at a time. So as soon as the zoning regulations are adjusted, I hope they are, we will we'll move very quickly to start being a part of the solution. I hope that's responsive to your question, Senator Hooker.
Excellent, thank you. And I do have another question, if I may.
Of course.
How's the staff doing during the pandemic?
Yes, that's a great question, and it's a question I worry about our staff, about our faculty, about our students. I mentioned the mental health of students, of course, and but everyone's challenge, Senator Hooker, as you know, and we are doing our best to stay connected, to understand their issues, to be as flexible as possible with remote work options. As I said, we're providing high quality masks and tests and such. I guess I'm proud that we've been able to not let anyone go because of COVID over the last 2 years. So we're maintaining employment and all of that. But I know that I have no illusions about this being an easy period for our staff. It's a very challenging time. It's a challenging time for across the nation, especially those with children or with parents that they're taking care of. So I think there's a lot of pain and challenge in our community and in every community. And so all we can do is to be sensitive to it, to be accommodating, and truly, truly hoping that we come out of this interminable pandemic soon. Again, we're doing our best by, well, I'm not doing this, but our students and our community is being very careful in keeping the positivity rate so very low. And I just we'll keep watching that space. I work with the staff council very closely. And we've just, for example, this morning, we announced that we're adding 5 additional sick days, paid sick days for them, for instance. So doing all we can, Senator Hooker, and we'll continue to be as careful about that and as attentive as we can.
Thank you.
Senator Chittenden.
President Garamella, Wendy, good to see you both. So I just want to follow up on Senator Pertlick's question. So I know the UVM population has actually grown by about 40% over the last 20 years. If you look 20 years ago, fall 20, we actually had, we have more undergraduate Vermont students today than we did 20 years ago. The difference is a lot of the growth over the last 20 years, the gradual growth as the campus has also been invested in with the Davis Center, University Heights, has mostly been out-of-state students because we just don't have a lot more Vermont students. But the Vermont population has ebbed and flowed but been pretty steady, just proportionally it's fewer. The two questions I have for you, not Senator Pertlick, but President Garamella, I see tuition is frozen, which is great. I'm curious, could you reflect on whether or not student housing costs have been incrementally increased as well as student fees in order to cover those expanding costs? And I have to ask about the new basketball arena. So if that's coming online, I'm sure a lot of people would love to know when we might be watching a game in that new space.
On that last question, maybe it's a good investment of your ARPA funds. So we'll take that. But to your very important question about housing, and thank you for, no one knows UVM, you know UVM better than I do, Senator Chittenden. So thank you for the context. Certainly we're doing our best with bringing Vermont students, but proportionally, right? So that was an important question in terms of the growth. And so the year I arrived, I'd announced the first tuition freeze, and now we've done that 3 times in a row, which means for 4 years in a row, tuition has been frozen. And one thing I have said to the governor and to many of you is that we were the 3rd or 4th most expensive public school in the country when I arrived. I'd really like to leave here. Well, I'm not in a hurry to leave. So, but when I leave here, I would like us not to be quite as expensive. And also to provide financial aid. So I think the shot in the arm we would get from this base increase would certainly help that. But on top of that, it's a critical detail. We have kept room and board frozen, which means that between room and board, the fees that are cut and the tuition for students from Vermont have saved about $4,500 during this period, and the out-of-state students have saved about, well, Vermonters have saved like $4,660 or something like that, and out-of-staters have saved about $8,900. So room and board has stayed flat. There's been 0 increase, and we have cut fees. We've cut fees for undergraduates last year. We cut graduate fees by $250 this year. None of this is easy because none of our expenses go down. Our staff and our faculty expect, and our to continue to be compensated, of course, and then our healthcare expenses and other fringes go up. But it's taken a lot to get there, but it's been part of our commitment to keep housing costs flat as well. Housing, food, and fees have been cut. So thank you for asking that. I hope I didn't miss another question of yours. Okay.
Senator Lyons, please.
Thank you, and thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to see you and listen to your testimony. I do have a question regarding the workforce shortage has certainly affected all of us, but nowhere more importantly than in the healthcare environment. And we have learned over time that nursing, and we all see it in the papers, but we've learned that increasing the number of seats in nursing programs and increasing the number of nursing instructors is going to be critical going ahead. And so along those lines, sometimes we can't find another person, but maybe we can find the remote access that would facilitate expansion. So my question, I guess you understand the query.
Yes. But
Just to ask any thoughts that you have or work that your folks are doing in the School of Nursing and Allied Health to either encourage agreements between other schools, getting more students in, and then additional faculty, or how that might be, how you might be working on that.
right. Senator Lyons, I think if anybody's read anything in the media lately or opened the newspaper, everyone's aware that this is a huge challenge and a shortage of medical help. Senator Sanders and I had a conversation some time back. I know he has been a leader in this space and has convened different groups. Patty Prelock, our provost, thankfully was the dean of nursing before this role. And our new dean of nursing, well, newish dean of nursing, Noma Anderson, is very experienced. So the two of them are deeply engaged in this issue. As you know, we doubled our nursing graduates a few years ago. Of course, I like doubling things. So I said, well, could we, double again? So the challenge on increasing our nursing graduates is the practicum, is the placements, the clinical placements. We have run out of clinical placements, and already busy nurses in hospitals don't want to be, babysitting, if you will, nursing students. And so I think if we could address the placement issues, I don't mean placement after work, after graduation, but, in curriculum placement, that could help us expand our numbers. And I've been talking to John Brumstead about this. We've been talking for some time about it, and there are potentially some solutions we're pursuing. I think it's become such an important deal. I was having lunch with a small group, and one of them happened to be an out-of-state nurse. And I said, hey, you want a job? I'll get you a job right away here. So I think it's critical. And we're proud of the nurses we're adding to the workforce, but I am continuing to push and explore how we can increase those placements, how our own nursing faculty can potentially offer some help on the clinical side to help with those placements, et cetera. So it's very high on our list. And as I said, Senator Sanders, I don't remember what the ad hoc working group was called, but he's pulled a group together. And I know Patty Prelock, our provost, and Noma Anderson are part of those conversations. And any help the state can provide with this and any suggestions, we would be more than happy to move forward with.
Well, I think in particular about the remote access and how that can be utilized maybe in a rotational way with folks. I mean, that's, just looking at the very practical level.
Yeah.
So that your clinical rotation would include X amount of time in person, X amount of time at a distance, or something has to give. I know that these continue to be difficult issues.
Yeah.
But thank you for the work that you're doing on that. I do have one or two.
Take that away. I think the remote access bit is quite an important one.
Yes.
I know the accreditation issues, because it's a professional school, there are issues with that, but Wendy and I will take that back to the team and see if
that's very interesting thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, good. I thought maybe you'd already thought of it, but it's I think the professional programs obviously will have a great deal to say about standards and maintaining standards. But if anyone can lead in this area, it's UVM. We've been leaders in telemedicine since it started. So yeah.
Senator Lyons, before you ask your two more additional questions, I just need to step away for one moment. So Senator Hooker will manage the meeting. Thank you.
I have two quick questions. Actually, one's a comment, but have you done any further thinking about the number of students with cars on campus? I know this opens up a whole nother can of worms, but just any thoughts on reducing the number of cars that come into our state until and unless we can get more electric vehicles or a train to Burlington?
Great question. I don't think I have a quick answer for you, but these are important issues. We are working. We have a new PhD level individual who's leading our Office of Sustainability, Liz Palchak. And if you're interested, I know Senator Campion said you're part of UVM, so we can certainly connect you with Elizabeth. And she is leading on campus. She's a Rubenstein School grad with a PhD. She's leading a conversation on campus sustainability. Obviously, it has many, many aspects to it, including composting, et cetera, but also power usage and such. With our new housing plans as well, we're thinking about how to incorporate district heating and such into it. So as you know, these are all of the above solutions. They're not, there's no one magic bullet for any of this, but we'll continue to watch that space, Senator Lyons, and I'll bring that back to the team as well.
My last comment, thank you. And thank you for that. My last comment is I'm pleased about a new basketball arena. And could we please have the men's hockey team play as well as the women's? Just a comment.
Yeah, I'll do what I can. So, both you and Senator Chittenden asked about the facilities. So obviously we've got housing needs, we've got academic needs, we've got athletics needs, all of which are important. We need to balance them. I will say that something you're all not, I'm sure you're not aware of, and I just took a tour. We are spending a very, very large amount of money in improving, this was committed before I arrived here, in improving the recreation and wellness space for our students, for all students, not just athletes. I just walked through some of the yoga spaces, the spin cycle spaces, the large sort of multi-purpose use spaces. You will be so pleased, any of you who would want to take a tour of it. So a good amount of it has been opened up already as of January 17th or something, and it's being heavily used. In March, we'll have sort of a climbing wall and other areas opened. And then in April, this phase will be done. And it will have quadrupled, 4x, quadrupled the amount of space available for wellness and recreation, sort of health and wellness type things for our campus community. So I'm very proud of that. I think that was the top priority for the board when they went down this path. And then once this phase is done, the board will be revisiting or visiting the other phase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for President Garamella or Ms. Koenig at this point? President Garamella, Ms. Koenig, thank you both very much for being with us. Very much appreciate it. And we are grateful for all the work that you're doing and look forward to continuing this conversation in the days and weeks and months ahead.
Thank you so much, Senator Campion, and to all of you. Appreciate it, and happy to come back anytime to answer questions. So
terrific. And truly, if there's something as things are happening on campus, if there's something that you think we shouldn't miss, something that's happening, please just let us know, and we will try to pay a visit or watch virtually.
Thank you. I think Wendy has you on speed dial, but we will invite you to come and visit our facilities perhaps when it's not -10 outside, et cetera, and you can walk through the rec and wellness area. But thank you very much again, and I'm going to sign off. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cargill, Mr. Little, Happy New Year to the two of you. I think the two of you are next on our list, representing VSAC. Mr. Little, I'm sorry, I did see an email from you. I apologize for not getting back to you. We are just talking today about the governor's recommend and looking forward to hearing from the two of you on that issue. So with that, the floor is yours.
Ready to go, and I think Marilyn will take the lead.
Okay.
So thank you so much for having us. And for the record, my name is Marilyn Cargill, and I am the Vice President of Financial Aid Services, Marketing, Research, and Public Affairs for Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. I sent a slide presentation earlier, which I'm hoping that most of you have access to, and I really wanted to focus on the 5 different areas in the governor's budget proposal that they are looking to have VSAC administer. I can share my screen if that would be helpful, but I'm also fine to just talk and let you look at your own screens if that's preferable to you.
We prefer just to look at our own screens.
That would be perfect. So
I see Senator Perchlik. I just want to make sure. Senator Perchlik, do you have those documents?
There's 2. Is it just as long as Ms. Cargill can let us know which one she's referring to? That would be helpful.
So I'm on the multi-page PowerPoint slide, and I'm actually going to start with the slide that, on mine at least, it's the 3rd slide, but it's labeled as slide 2, which is the advancement grant. Is that good? Okay. So in the governor's proposal, he is proposing a $1 million increase to funding for the advancement grant. The advancement grant, as I think most of you know, is focused on students who want to attend training or certificate programs, or those who are testing out their ability to be successful on a college campus. So they're going through a continuing ed program. This is a very targeted program. As you can see on this slide, the average recipient of these monies is female. She's 35, she's a single mother, and she makes less than $22,000 a year. So this is very much targeted to low income Vermonters who are looking to improve their earning potentials through education and training. Some of the programs that are used for non-degree include the LNA programs, the nursing assistants, dental assistants, construction workers. We have a number of students this year that are at the boot camps learning coding. Medical billing and coding careers are another place that we see a number of our students. Massage therapy is another place that is very popular with students. Our largest Title IV school, which is a traditional college or university that advancement grant students are likely to use to test their ability to be successful on a college campus, is the Community College of Vermont. And it's just one of the many partnerships that VSAC and CCV have when it comes to making sure that low income and modest income first generation students have access to education. If we are to receive this $1 million in additional funding for the advancement grant, we're looking at 2 different places that we would want to use those funds. One, we would be trying to increase the number of students that we are helping, so additional students having access to the program. And secondly, a number of the programs that I just mentioned, CDL licenses, coding camps, massage therapy, those programs are significantly more expensive than what the advancement grant currently covers. So our maximum grant rate now is $3,000. Those programs can be $10,000 or more, which means that for a low income family, just about the only source of assistance that's available for those programs is the advancement grant. They do not qualify for any of the other aid that you will sometimes hear us talk about with state grants and federal Pell Grants and institutional aid. So we would like to increase the level for those institutions to make them more accessible and make those careers more available to low and modest income students who are looking to attend those institutions. I'm going to pause there for just a second and see if there's any questions, and if not, I'll move on.
Any questions yet? Not seeing any.
Perfect. The second recommendation in the governor's budget proposal was to increase the funding for 802 Opportunity by $1.5 million. 802 Opportunity is a program that came out of the legislature last year. And this program is a program of providing access to low and modest income families. This program provides any Vermont family who earns $50,000 or less the ability to stack their financial aid, including their VSAC grant, their state grant from Vermont, the federal Pell Grant, and the 802 Opportunity Grant to attend CCV tuition free. We purposely chose CCV because of the 12 sites around the state and their online learning center, which made access really accessible to all Vermonters. It also, as many of you know, is the most affordable institution in the state. So from a financial perspective and an geographic access perspective, this was an ideal partnership for this particular program. I do have a few slides that will give you some of the story about what we're seeing so far. In the first semester, we have over 1,472 students who are attending CCV tuition free between those three sources of funding: the state grant, the federal Pell Grant, and 802 Opportunity. If this funding is received, if the additional 1.5 million is available, and just to step back for a moment and remind people, 802 Opportunity was actually funded for 2 years. When you set that up, you funded it for 21-22 and 22-23. So there's $3.8 million available for this program. So what we would do with those additional dollars is increase that income cutoff from $50,000 to $75,000, making it available to approximately 44% of Vermont families make $75,000 or less. So this just really opens up that access point.
Would you repeat that number, Marilyn?
44% of Vermont families are making $75,000 or less. So one of the important things, and President Garamello.
And I'm sorry, I just want to, if you can dig into this. So does a family, are we assuming in those circumstances that there are children? So you're bringing in a household income of 74,000, you have at least one child?
So when we speak of family, thank you, Chair Campion, that's a really good question. When we talk about a family in this definition, if that student is self-supporting, a family could be a single adult student who's returning to school or going to school for the first time.
Okay.
If we are talking about that 18 or 19-year-old recent graduate, then a family is that student's parent or parents. So if there's a married couple, it would be mom and dad's income, not the student's income that we're looking at. So if that family income is $75,000 or less, they would be able to attend CCV tuition free. And again, another reason that this particular school working with CCV has just been, I think, so important to this program is the agreements that that President Garamello was speaking to, that students can transfer from CCV into four-year programs. So you can have a student start at CCV, attend full-time for 2 years, and move right into one of the other state colleges, the University of Vermont, and many of our private institutions based on the articulation agreements that I'm hoping President Judy will speak to way more eloquently than I am right now. But those exist very purposefully to help students be able to do this. And any student who can start a 4-year degree with 2 years under their belt that they did not have to borrow money for, we're impacting their ability when they graduate, how quickly they can get out from under student loan debt and begin to consider other things they'd like to be doing with their life, like buying homes and starting businesses and all the things we want them to be able to do. So let me stop there on 802 opportunity, see if there's any questions on that.
President Judy, did you want to jump? I'm not sure if your hand is up. No, you're okay. I just wanted to see if you wanted to jump in. And just for those keeping an eye on things, we're going to go until 2:45. We're going to take a 15-minute break. After VSAC, we still need to hear from President Judy as well as the Chancellor, and then we have some students coming in to talk about Holocaust Memorial Day. So I just want to let you know, Ms. Cargill, I think we can go another 5 or 6 minutes if that works for you.
Perfect. I don't think
Thanks.
I've got more than that to say. Thank
great,
you.
Great.
The third thing that the governor recommended was $3 million to go into the Vermont nursing program that VSAC administers.
Great.
As we all know, nursing is a field, healthcare is a field where we desperately need more nurses than we currently have in the state. This current year, this program was funded again in the fall of 20 by the legislature. It was first offered to students for the spring of 21, and this is the first full fall and spring that we have run this program. There are currently 98 students in the nursing program that we are funding, and the way this program is structured is that a student signs a promissory note who receives these funds stating that they will either work in Vermont, which is what we're really looking for, following licensure in a nursing field, and if they are unable to meet that obligation, that they will repay that as a student loan, which VSAC collects. This program has actually been running in a slightly different version since 2003. So this is a 19-year program. 86% of the students who have been funded in this program ended up meeting their obligation by working in a nursing field in Vermont. So this is a very successful program. 242 students were funded in those first 19 years. Only 35 of those became loans. 29 of those are completely repaid and 6 are currently in repayment. What we would do with the additional nursing money is increase the size of this award. The award is currently $6,000. That is not even half of tuition at the least expensive institution for nursing tuition. So we would like to increase this award to make more schools accessible to students that are interested in going into this field. And then the last thing that I will mention in the governor's proposal was the funding for the Vermont Trades Scholarship Program and funding for the Trades Loan Repayment Program. These are new programs to VSAC, so we know what the funding amount is, and we know the types of careers that the governor is interested in these programs being made available to. And that is about everything I know about those programs right now. They are still very much in the conceptual stage. And Senator Campion, one other thing I wanted to mention very briefly, we also have some stats on the Green Mountain Grad program that came out of this particular committee last year that I've included in the appendix, and I'd be more than happy at some time when it was more appropriate to come back and talk to you about that program.
Do you want to just say quickly, Ms. Cargill, just a quick overview of that, you know, how things, what we're looking at, and just say a couple words?
Sure. So what I will tell you is we are phenomenally pleased with this program. This program, as you know, was created for 1 year to help graduates from the high school classes of 20 and 21 be able to take a single course. Well, they could take up to 2 classes at any one of the Vermont state colleges. We opened it up originally to take 1 course just because there was such high demand for it. We have students from every county in Vermont that took advantage of this. We have students at every one of the Vermont state colleges. The majority of students were at CCV, which was 52%. And then the other 50% divide across the other 3 campuses, with 21% at Castleton, 12 at VTC, and 15 at NVU. They ended up studying, there's a lot of students, 17% are in healthcare, 15% are in business management, about 10% pursued education degrees. So a very successful program.
Great. Any questions for Ms. Cargill or Mr. Little at this point? Mr. Little, were you going to add something, or were you here for support?
I just support if the committee was really desperate for some entertainment value. I would add that the advancement grant is a long-standing program. For years and years and years, we called it the non-degree grant program, and decided to change the name so it wasn't defined by what it wasn't, but more by what it can give people an opportunity to do to advance either their job opportunities or test out a post-secondary educational program. So advancement grant is the old non-degree program.
Okay. Thank you both.
Yep.
Thank you both very much. And we will likely, of course, have you back, but that was terrific. President Judy.
Thank you, Senator Campion, and also sorry about my hand. I'm always moving around, so
No problem at all.
Apologize for that.
Nope.
But I'm just really here to speak very directly in support of the 802 Opportunity Grant. As you have heard with the previous 2 speakers, both with President Garamella and with VSAC, we are very well situated to sort of collaborate with everybody in higher ed in Vermont. And we have an incredibly strong partnership with VSAC, and it's very important to Vermonters and to our students in terms of access. But I wanted to give just a little human face to the students who are currently participating in the 802 Opportunity Grant. So this fall, we had 503 students who were enrolled, and 70% of those students were first generation students. 46% were between the ages of 25 and 34. The average age of the students who were receiving this grant was 30. 83% of those students receiving the 802 Opportunity Grant are part-time, and 17% are full-time. It's really targeting. We're seeing that part-time students who have families and who need to work but want to continue their education. We are really quite encouraged that almost 80% of the students who took courses in the fall are taking courses this spring, started this past week. That's very significant because, as you can imagine, our population is very fluid. People are in and out, school gets in the way. But the 80% of the students who are enrolled in this program last semester are seeing the advantage and want to take full advantage of the program while it's available. As Marilyn mentioned, if we can increase the program to 75,000, that means that 44% of the Vermont households would qualify for this program. And as you can imagine, the majority of families that are earning $75,000 less do not have disposable income to invest in themselves and invest in education. They are struggling for housing, for all the things that we know cost money. So even though 75 feels like it's a big leap, if we think about trying to support a family on 75,000, clearly they don't have money. We're competing with housing, food, and all of that. I will also say in support of what Marilyn talked about in terms of transfer, one of the things that we have really worked hard on in the last 10 to 15 years is really creating first articulation agreements, but then more importantly in the last few years, what we call guided pathways, so that people can start at CCV. They know exactly what courses they need to take if they're planning to transfer, planning to go to another school within the Vermont State Colleges, planning to go to the University of Vermont. We have a guaranteed admissions program with UVM. They know exactly, they can look on their program and say, if I take these courses at CCV, I can enter as a junior at UVM, and I just have to take these courses to finish my program. So the whole focus is don't waste their time, don't waste their money, make sure they're taking what they need when they start. We also, as you can imagine, have guided pathways and articulation agreements with the privates in Vermont and beyond. Norwich and Champlain are significant recipients of our program.
Okay.
Senator Chittenden, did you have a question?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
President Judy, I love that you just mentioned that because it ties to a question that I heard Senator Pershlik ask of President Garamella. Do you have any numbers to give us an idea of how many UVM students are really taking some CCV credits to do exactly what you just described? Because I work at UVM and I'm definitely seeing that where these smart Vermont students are getting a lot of CCV credits at a lower cost at their own time. Do you have any idea of how that's grown over time? So that could
I can get you those figures anecdotally. I can tell you that they've grown a lot. What's interesting, Senator Chittenden, is on the UVM website, you have probably seen this, that they list UVM courses and the CCV equivalents. Because one of the interesting things is we also see a lot of UVM students taking CCV courses. If they couldn't get something at UVM, quite strategically, we actually plan to start our semester always at least a week behind the traditional schools, because the students can't get a course at the traditional school at where they're attending. They can pick up a course, particularly online at CCV. So we see a lot of that fluidity, but I can get you the number of students who have transferred from CCV to UVM. That's an easy thing to get for you. And I'll just finish up by saying, we have found that cost really matters to Vermonters. As you've heard from many, many people over the years, Vermont enjoys a really high high school graduation rate. But for years, we have had this hard nut to crack that we have very few students compared to other states and throughout the country of people going on to any kind of post-secondary education, not just college, any post-secondary education after high school. And we've had the unique opportunity in the last 2 years. This is one of the silver linings of COVID. Starting with the McClure grad gift in the fall of 2020, where we addressed affordability in a very dramatic way. And then last year with this committee's particular support and offering different scholarship programs, investing in the 802 Opportunity Grant, truly addressing affordability for the first time in Vermont in a very significant way, we are seeing an incredible uptick in the number of Vermonters wanting to go on. And it's not just 18 to 24-year-olds. As you can see, the average age of this program is age 30. So, and for me, this is all about economic development. It's helping Vermonters get the skills they need to get the better paying jobs that are available in Vermont, and it's keeping Vermont companies here. So I just want to close by reading a quote. We actually surveyed all of the students in the scholarship programs, and 81% of them cited affordability as the number one reason why they have never gone to school before. And I just want to read you, this is just a typical quote. I could give you 100 more that are like this, but I will end with, and this is a quote, a direct quote. I am a mother of 5. My husband works round the clock. I drive school bus to help make ends meet. I would not be able to afford these classes without this grant. I've worked hard. I am willing to keep working hard to realize my dream of becoming a nurse and then giving back to a community that's helped me through twins and multiple issues with their preterm births. It is more than just money. It was hope. It was a gift. I am grateful. So with that, those are the kind of things that keep me going. And I hope you will give strong consideration to increasing the threshold from 50 to 75,000. And I'm happy to take questions.
That's great. Thank you so much. Questions for President Judy. Senator Pershlik.
I don't have a question. I was just going to say, just how pleased I am of the good news of the program, because I remember working on the 802 program and the other program two years ago, pre-pandemic, or just the beginning of the pandemic. So just great to see the success of the programs, and hope we can keep the funding for them going. Really like to see that a family under the 75K can go tuition free. That was, when we had the bill in the committee to make all tuition free, that was a goal that we set out. So it's great to see it happen. It shows you how you can start small and build over time. So hope we keep going. And thank you.
And, I think one of the pieces that's very important that Marilyn mentioned is this is a stackable. In some ways, this is a last dollar in. So it allows us to take advantage of bigger pots of money, like at the federal Pell Grant or whatever people are eligible for. But then it makes up that difference that oftentimes is what keeps people from being able to enroll.
Yeah, I mean, I just reminds me a little bit of a conversation we had yesterday with the after school folks. This committee, we know when the pre-K bill was passed, a lot of us who were in the building really felt as though this was going to address the needs of a lot of lower middle income families, and it hasn't. And so this is who we're focused on. We want the first generation college students. We want, the low income Vermonters. We really want to give people those opportunities. We're not doing these things. We know that there are Vermonters that have access and ability to afford to put their kids through college, et cetera. But we're really looking to really make a change here, to really get into the schools, help kids understand and their families understand that there are some opportunities out there. And we also don't want them to miss that. In other words, even with the after school programs, I would say that we tried to send a message that sometimes it's going to be hard for that single mom with a couple of kids or single dad to know that these programs are out there. And how do we reach those folks? How do we let them know that with everything they have going on, this is also there for them? Does that make sense? So I don't know if there's particular outreach that you do in any particular way that you have found to be particularly successful. It sounds like you are, but if there's a particular method, I'd be curious.
One of the things that I think is, thank you, Senator Campion, for asking that question, because I think one of the things that's important is we can get the word out about these programs, but I think it's changing public perception, and that takes a while. And so right now, I think there is the opinion of the public in Vermont that college is expensive. It's too expensive. I'm going to end up with my child having a $140,000 bill or something along that line. So what I'm hoping is, and I know the funding was for 2 years for this program, but I think if we can institutionalize that, then word on the street begins to really filter out much more broadly. And we're doing our best right now to do these, to do the hits, the immediate. But I think the benefit will be if we can sustain this for a long period of time, then people really the word spreads, people talk. I do believe that is going to be critical going forward. So we can do the immediate marketing, because so many of the students we're trying to reach don't come to us through traditional marketing. Like they don't right. Because they've taken themselves out of the game. Yeah. So it's really about relationships and getting into schools, getting to talk to businesses, talking to people who are connected with different populations, because in the end, it's saying to Marilyn, you know what, you could go back to school. Here is a program, and that will get her through the door, as opposed to seeing an ad in 7 days.
Right. That's right. That's right. Other questions or comments for President Judy at this point? President Judy, any final comments?
Thank you, and happy to I will get the information, Senator Chittenden, to you about the transfer stuff.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So before we switch to the Chancellor, let's take a 10-minute break. Chancellor Zadotny, does that work for you? We're just going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll come back at about 5 minutes to 3 and get started.
That works for us. We just actually would like to know what would you like us to do, because we have a presentation. We had a number of things that we were required to report on back to this committee. So we probably had a good half hour's worth of a presentation. So I don't know what the rest of your day looks like, or is there something specific you'd like us to hone in on today and then come back?
I think
it
it would be, since we have you, I think it would be great. We have 2 students joining us to talk to us about some of their plans and work for Holocaust Memorial Day, Remembrance Day, and they are coming at 3:30. So I think as long as we have a good solid 10-minute break, we'll be back, and the rest of the time will be yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much.